Hey everyone, Hybrid Toy Reviews here, bringing you the first episode of Topical Tuesday that's live. We're going to talk a little bit about just what we don't like about Hasbro, basically. Hasbro, what's going on? I'm joined by Jacob and Tommy from the 1313 podcast.
Hi,
guys.
what's up, everybody?
They are avid consumers of Hasbro products, as am I.
What are you talking about?
That means that we're qualified to talk about what we don't like. So,
indeed.
Right off rip, we have a very early comment. Let's go ahead and just bring that up from 80s Kid from the 90s. Greetings, Exalted Ones. The new Chrysanthemum Black Series figure looks great. I'm looking forward to the Chapter 22 of The Mandalorian. I'm excited for that episode tonight, and Chrysanthemum is definitely something that we could bring up in relation to conversation tonight. He came out really good. What do y'all think?
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely ludicrous. When I saw it, Tommy said this too. When we saw it for the first time, we were like, "Oh, that's a really sick custom."
Right.
So no, absolutely. Hats off to Hasbro on that one. You guys did a really good job. Looks absolutely phantasmic.
Yeah, I think honestly, the scale. I mean, we need to see it next to another figure, but from what the pictures look like, the scale looks great. The articulation is really good for how chunky he is. I like all the painted detail, all the sculpted detail. It looks new head to toe. So I have no complaints, and I'm willing to spend the $40 on him right off the bat. I'm not going to sit around and wait for a sale. So,
and I know that Hasbro did like one of their little like Mando Mania videos where they actually showcased it. So you can have like a little sense of scale for what it looks like, but no, absolutely mint.
Also, $40 was retracted. That was a typo. He's actually $33.99, like the standard deluxe figures are.
Nuh-uh. No way.
Yeah, Yakface did go through and say that he's actually going to be $33.99. Like they sent him follow-up info saying that they gave him the wrong number in the first initial release.
Dude.
So yeah, no, he's actually regular deluxe price, and he's big and he's bulky and he's actually painted and he's a unique sculpt, and he checks all the boxes for the deluxe figures, unlike most of them where they only check one off the list and say that's enough.
And he's not exclusive.
I mean, there's nothing bad to say about that guy.
No, I'm excited. It looks really, really freaking good.
And now that I know it's $7 less, now it's really worth it.
Yeah, he's already on sale in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing that's kind of like is Book of Boba happened last year, and we are now on to Mando season 3. I was kind of hoping that Mando Mania was gonna deal with some stuff with the Mandalorian, and I was hoping that we were gonna get like on track, kind of like how Kenobi had Kenobi figures coming out while Kenobi was coming out.
Right, and that's actually something that I've kind of been harping on a bit lately. So that was one of my topics for tonight as well. Real quick, just to buzz through the chat, though, we got Obi-Sean here saying, "What's up, fellas? How you doing, Obi-Sean?"
Good.
Hi, Dad.
We have Sky Guy Hendy here. So, hey, sexy fellas. All right.
The sexiest of all.
Got good old Meat Mittens.
Hey!
How you doing?
Hunter Mitts.
Yep, Meat Mittens. We got a Cheesy Napkin. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hola.
So, Obi-Wan says, Black Croissant Witch must grab. I'm with it. He's a pickup. He's day one. I'm pre-ordering him. I don't pre-order stuff, and I'm gonna go for him. So Cheesy Napkin agrees. He actually looks really good. And Obi-Wan is sharing Jacob's or Obi-Sean here is sharing Jacob's idea. Grab a second when it goes on sale to make a Tarful.
Yep.
That's the base body. He's bigger, he's taller, you have to tweak the head a little bit for like the chin braids, but he's there.
Just a tad, but no, yeah. I'm really hoping that eventually we're gonna get I hope that we're gonna get a Revenge of the Sith line, which granted it isn't looking very good due to the fact that we are there's nothing for Attack of the Clones, and I'm pretty sure that they wanted to lump some Revenge of the Sith in with this Clone Wars anniversary that they're doing, but we'll talk about that later. But I hope eventually, if they were to do anything like that, they could do a Tarful on this Chrysanthemum body. This is definitely like a reusable body that I hope they use more in the future. Heck
yeah. So basically, point of what we're doing here tonight, everyone, is the life of a collector is not gripe free lately, and there's just a lot of things that Hasbro's consistently doing that you consistently see people commenting on, not liking. And seems like they're just kind of like doubling down on a lot of this stuff. No one was really going for carbonized figures. They went away for a bit. Now they're making really weird carbonized choices lately. And it's just, that being one of many arguments, but just, it's just kind of going to be, what we aren't happy with, and solutions, basically, or ideas that would be better. It's not going to accomplish anything. Hasbro's never going to watch this.
Who knows? Maybe they will.
Maybe they will.
Maybe Lukeness can send this video to Hasbro since he's buddy with them.
Right. He can just be like, hey, Eric, look at this link. So, and then
if you are Hasbro and you're watching this, hello.
Hi, how you doing? I've given you a lot of my money.
I've given you a lot more of my money.
Right. No, that's a group effort, that room there.
Oh yeah, this is the collective.
Right. That's a whole household worth of shopping. So, 80s kid from the 90s says that he still wants a Black Series Lobot, and could we get an updated Bespin Luke?
Just customize Echo.
Right.
Put Echo on the General Lando body and just take off the little nubs, and then you got it.
I was gonna say, like, that General Lando actually came to mind. Like the poofy sleeves, like that would actually probably work for a custom.
The baby blue shirt, yeah.
Right. But all right. So I guess it's my channel, so I'm gonna start with my initial topic, and y'all are gonna deal. So,
my turn. You don't have the talking hammer.
Well, so Tommy has actually come here with a plethora of data. So I think our topics are probably going to end up being smaller than his. So I think that's where we're going to build up to, is Tommy here, because Tommy was a very studious student this week.
I was.
So yeah, he's actually put a lot more effort into this than this deserved. So thank you, Tommy, for caring more than even I did.
I was excited. For this stream, So I'm talking about it for weeks now.
Right. And thanks for throwing that idea out in y'all's Discord. Y'all should check out the 1313 Discord. We just started talking one day about our gripes, and he was like, we should collab. And here we are with Topical Tuesday.
And this is the first time we've ever collabed.
No, but I mean, like, it was suggested that this particular idea, though. But, all right. So I guess my big thing, and it's not a unique opinion, y'all have probably heard it before, is the weird repaint choices that Hasbro really seems to double down on almost. I'm personally a fan of the credit collection figures. I know a lot of people aren't, they're not a new character. They're just repainting an old mold and something that wasn't on screen. I think they're artsy. I get why most don't. I don't see a lot of favor for the carbonized figures outside of that first wave. And stuff like that is always going to be on a case by case basis too. But one thing that I see hammered down on a lot is the repaint of ARC Trooper Echo into ARC Trooper 5s. And it's a very loud request. I mean, I think we've all seen that all over the place. So, or other ARC Troopers in general, it's not a minority of people that want them. And since they've released Echo, good friend Luke Ness Monster, he's always talking about wanting 5s, and viewers, on comment sections are always talking about wanting 5s. And since then, we had the Fordo, almost Fordo. We've had the Gaming Greats Umbra ARC Trooper, and so like they know they can repaint that body mold, but we're kind of constantly getting bombarded with holiday and carbonized and credit collection, but like we're not saying no to repaints. Is kind of
Hasbro sent me the prototype right here. My name is actually Yakface. So here it is, guys.
Right.
Here's 5s. No, I don't understand like why this is. Yeah, it doesn't make sense why things like this aren't a thing when the ask for it is so loud, and you have all of the assets to do it. It don't make no sense.
Right. No, it's not like we're asking them to make something that doesn't exist. I mean, I want Hasbro to take this body mold that they've made years ago and have used several times since. I want them to make 5s. I'm not asking them to make something from scratch for me.
I wonder legitimately what is the stopping point at it, because I don't think it's like something that the Hasbro is completely deaf and they haven't heard our cries and our plights. I think there's definitely some suit somewhere that's stopping the process. It's had been brought up multiple times.
Sure.
So I want to know what's the thought process behind those meetings, where they decide what figures get made and which ones don't make the cut.
Right. No, and with that, I mean, it's when I was talking with Justin a couple weekends ago on their Lazy Sunday live stream, he'd mentioned, I'm blanking on his source, something about how it's been reported that like a new head to foot, episode 3 Anakin Skywalker has been kicked around, these suits at tables meetings. And
they need to do that. They really, really need to do that.
Right. But it got shot down. And I guess I'm just wondering, who do they have on these boards? I feel, as a collector, I feel very unheard a lot of the time. And I don't think that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
We see all these wave announcements, and there's pretty healthy dose of the Disney Plus stuff in there, and that's what should be, because that's new and that's coming out, and there should be an emphasis. That's what's new. But whenever it's not, a Mandalorian or now Book of Boba or Andor, Kenobi, there's always that emphasis on these OT figures, and not my favorite trilogy. It doesn't have to be, and my preferences shouldn't matter, though. There should be a healthy spread. There's 9 movies, and it always kind of seems to be those 3.
Mm-hmm. I think, oh, you can go, Thomas.
So I honestly think that you're kind of onto something when it comes to the approval boards. I think, honestly, it comes less from Hasbro, and it comes more from Lucasfilm and Hasbro's like corporate end, kind of not bickering, but kind of trying to compromise on what to make. We know that every year Hasbro has a certain number of figures that they're allowed to make for the year. They can't just whip up 250 new characters in one year. They have to have some sort of business model, because that's the way that company makes money. And so they have a certain amount of figures that are allotted to new sculpts and a certain amount of figures that are allotted to reuse. And they rely on that reuse to make a lot of their money so that they can put more budget into. And we've heard Eric on Lucas Monsters streams in the past, say things like that, where they have to have a certain amount of budget to make these new sculpts. I think that the choices that they make for the reuse are questionable at best sometimes when you look at what they decide to do. And if you think about that, that's a figure out of the budget for the year that they in some ways waste on something else. Whether it's the big blaring example right now is that Obi-Wan Kenobi carbonized 2-pack with that Purge Trooper and that Ned B. It takes a while to figure out, when you put them side by side, which one is the carbonized and which one is not, especially for that Purge Trooper. I think that's where a lot of people get hung up, because a lot of people feel like it's a wasted reveal for the year, and it's something that's just going to sit at an exclusive retailer, when it could have been a plethora of other figures that would have been the exact same amount of reuse.
Mm-hmm. I personally think I think the collectors as a whole, I think we need to take a new approach to asking about getting figures and really making our voices heard, because we can do things like this all day, and the truth of the matter is that our audience may agree with us, and these people that watch our stuff are going to agree with us, but this is never going to reach the heads. So it's like, I really want to organize some sort of effort, some sort of communication through Hasbro, through Lucasfilm with the fans, where like maybe we can have something like, for example, Lukeness does his March Madness every single year for which is the most desired figure in the Black Series. 2 years in a row, it has been the winter figure. Is still a figure that we don't have, and it doesn't look like we're going to get it on the horizon. I hope and I wish we could set up some form of communication where Hasbro would actually do polling, where they would give a selection of figures. Like instead of doing these pipelines being like these are going to come down the way because these are from shows, they have the set lineups that are coming from these shows that Lucasfilm wants them to make, and because you're going to make them because they're relevant and they're going to come. But I feel like they should also do like maybe like one figure in each wave that comes out where they have like maybe 6, and you do like you vote on which one that you want, and then they go through that 6 figures until they're all made. So these are all figures that would be on a lineup, but they're all gonna, which just takes priority. Which ones do people want first or things like that? Maybe we should just go to Rhode Island to the Hasbro Pulse headquarters and just protest it. If we could get like 1,000 nerds to just all stand outside their headquarters with the sign that says, I want to rework the Anakin, somebody's got to listen. Or if we want a 5s, we want a super battle droid, somebody's got to listen somewhere. So I think the biggest issue right now is really getting a point across to the suits and the decision makers what figures people genuinely want in the line. Because I'm gonna be honest, I don't think a whole lot of people wanted General Lando and Skiff-Guard Lando within a couple years of each other, but that was probably hands down something that was done, pushed by some suit somewhere, because they're like, oh, and I'm not saying this to be political, but they probably had a diversity quota of some sort they needed to fill. Like, we want to have a certain form of representation in our line of figures. And to be honest, there's not really a whole lot of black characters in Star Wars. You really only have Finn, Lando, and Mace Windu, and there's not really a whole lot of other people that are super notable. So it's like, I feel like in some ways that was a way trying to push it, which is fine, but I think the mentality needs to change in some ways to appeasing the fans rather than filling the Lucasfilm and the Hasbro quotas.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I mean, they would be hitting quotas if we're talking about, picking, different ethnicities. I want in my collection a large amount of Polynesian men. I want clones, I want, I mean, that's me personally, but I don't think it's a minority unique opinion in that there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, because I've been with Black Series since day one. I mean, 2013, I bought that X-Wing pilot Luke at Target on the shelf. I've been since wave 1, day 1. And they used to interact with the audience. They used to do, these votes where you could, the community could collectively vote, to have a figure made. That's how we ended up getting the Darth Revan figure, because they weren't in the Black Series. They weren't doing, Legends characters. And it came down to where everyone voted Darth Revan to be a figure, and it kind of forced their hand. And then their hand got forced again a year later for Jaina Solo. And then this last vote, it very nearly became Slave Leia, which they're saying they don't want to do. But it almost seems like
Hutt Slayer Leia. It's Hutt Slayer Leia. Okay.
Leia. No, I'm sorry, that was inappropriate on my part. So
do better.
But no, I mean, and they very nearly did Hutt Slayer Leia, and then that vote got thrown. I'm blanking on who ended up winning that vote.
Cody.
Yeah, it was Cody, because it was an archive vote, right?
Yeah, it was archive. Cody won over Leia.
What would you like to be redone? And then like Commander Cody kind of came in and won out. And like it seems like every time they would interact with us, we would almost every time go for something they didn't want to do. And because they weren't doing what we wanted from day one. And these opportunities have basically stopped. That Cody vote was 2020. It's been 3 years since they've had a fan vote, and it used to be every other year. They used to send out regularly, like once a year, polls, where Yak Face would get a link and then he'd share it. And it would be, what do you want? Hey, if we were to make this item, yes or no, and that would kind of be a fun way to see what they're thinking behind the scenes. And they don't do that anymore. It's weird how they didn't talk to us much, but they've really shut us out.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, there's a whole consumer thing here. There's a process, they make it, we buy it. but we don't ever get to say what we'd like to buy, except everyone still buys everything they make anyway, so they think it's good.
I think part of the issue with the market part of it is, and I know Hasbro says this a lot, and I do think it holds some value, even though I personally disagree with it, is the argument of, well, the collecting community is just a percentage of the people buying the figures. I would argue that the collecting community buys most of the figures, especially when it comes to sales and whatnot. But when you think Star Wars, this is probably the mentality from a corporate end. It's like, when you think Star Wars, what do you think of? The average person thinks Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Leia. The original trilogy. That's what the average, when you say Star Wars, the casual collector thinks of the original trilogy. So I think that's why a lot of the figures every year go to original trilogy characters. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I definitely can understand from a very casual purchasing mindset. You know, they always use the example of the mom or the grandma that's walking down the toy aisle and sees, you know, oh, it's Star Wars, you know, like, for me, I think that holds a little less value as an argument, because it's the logo that people look for more than it is the character that people look for. You know, that's so I think it's a weak argument, but I do think that that's part of how the corporate end looks at it.
And the worst part about that argument is the fact that they assume that somebody's going to be able to walk down this aisle and see product on shelves. That's another huge issue that we need that needs to be addressed. There's like the supply chain. I'm pretty sure it's back on track. No, not a whole lot of people are still being like, oh, there's delays and everything. The supply chain doesn't really seem to be an issue anymore. I think it's just the fact that places like Walmart, we've found this out from people that have worked at Walmart. Their business model is they will get a case of 6 figures, and their quota is to sell one of those figures every week. Yep. So if somebody comes in and buys that entire case, you're not getting another case for over a month. So and especially for a store that claims themselves to be America's greatest toy store, it's really laughable with how the distribution works. So, and granted, that might just be the business model for the Walmarts in our area, but more likely than not, it's probably a global epidemic for different big box stores like Walmart. And especially with the death of Toys R Us, there hasn't really been a place that utilizes nothing but toys as their main selling point.
Right. Something, you know, worth noting too is, I mean, you talk about going and finding product or the inability to find product. For the last 3 months, my local Walmart has had 3 Ewok Village Leias, 2 Figrin Dans, and 1 New Republic security droid. I count them every week when I go to get my groceries. Nothing new has shown up. None of them have left. That is what they have. And those are what I see every time I go to the store. When I go to any Walmart, any Target, you know, it's always some combination of those 3. And right. No, it just kind of makes me like wonder, like, you know, there's this emphasis on the original trilogy characters. They're running out of original trilogy characters. They're having to pick these more obscure costumes and, you know, background aliens, which I know that some people really, really want. But like, whenever we do get a clone trooper in a wave, you know, whenever that rarely happens, those don't sit. You know, that wave hits and someone comes and buys the clone trooper, and maybe if there's a main character in the wave, and otherwise the rest gets left every time. And, you know, so I mean, it's just like, I don't, you know, I don't really like the peg warmer term that much, you know, but like, it's just not desirable.
I haven't seen really anything new at any of our stores other than I went to Target the other day, and they had the 40th anniversary Han Solo and Leia from Endor figures and like their camouflage garb. They had those, and then they started actually getting some of the Indiana Jones products in, lots of the younger kid products rather than the I didn't find any of the actual figures.
Right.
But, it's like, yeah, I haven't seen new figures since what's his face, yellow droid from Obi-Wan. I can't remember his name.
Ned B.
Yeah, we haven't gotten anything new really since Ned B came out, and it's been like what, 3 months. So it's Yeah, it's disheartening because part of the joy, at least for me, because it's like, oh, I can go online and I can pre-order it and maybe get the figure, but finding it in the wild is so much more fun. It's way more rewarding and it adds like another layer to the hobby. But the problem is that when I have to like get up at 6 o'clock and wait in front of a Target just so they maybe have one of the figures because they don't get the full cases, or people in the back are like buying them, or people are buying them online and putting them on hold before the stores even open. It's like, increase the amount is in these cases. Like the Clone Wars wave that came out, like with the special packaging for the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm. Our Target only got like maybe 2 of those.
Right.
Like,
I think honestly, when it comes to that stuff, I mean, there are still stores in our area that have like, there's a Walmart that has 5 General Landos just sitting full price, waiting to never be purchased. I think, like Jacob said, a lot of it comes down to distribution. I think that there needs to be more of a conversation about what characters are getting packed as the double in the case. General Lando being packed as the double in the case over some of the other characters that were in that wave will never ever make sense to me. And it's got to have been something that happened between Lucasfilm and Hasbro that made them decide that figure needed to be double packed. And maybe it's because they knew they wouldn't make any money off of reuse of the sculpt. So when they sold the cases to the retailers, they knew they could get at least 2 of them per case, instead of just 1. I don't know. That's one of those things that I don't know, and I can only speculate on. I think going forward, I agree with you guys that polling the community is probably the best way to, out of these characters, which one are you most excited for? In that way, people aren't really having a say in what gets made, but Hasbro is getting an idea of what kinds of characters that they make are popular and which ones are most anticipated.
I think there just needs to be another level of transparency through the company. The main issue that we're always running into is like, where's the product? Why is the product not coming on time? Why are we not getting product as a show's coming out? Why am I getting Book of Boba figures now when Mando season 3 is coming out now? And why was I getting Obi-Wan figures when Obi-Wan was coming out? But the same thing isn't happening here. It's definitely some layer of secrecy between Lucasfilm. But the main issue is that we don't really have a level of transparency through Hasbro as a company that's letting the general people know that's the reason why there's a holdup. So I feel like they also need to be like, it's like when a politician is talking to constituents and they're like, I put this bill forth on the floor. Everybody else hated it. So just so you guys know, I did make an effort. If there's a bill or something to be passed in favor of the people, I think the same thing should kind of be with Hasbro. They should have like, this is like some things that we want to talk to like the suits about. We're proposing these figures, and if something happens, it's like, well, at least you know that we tried. Because I'd rather have full transparency through something like that rather than whispers about figures that may have been brought up at a table, and only tell us about the ones that aren't being made and keep the ones that are being made as a surprise for after those meetings. But it's like, I feel like, yeah, as consumers of like a collectible, especially one as lucrative as Star Wars, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more transparency between the company and the consumer.
Right. No, and I mean, I know to some degree, the delays in getting new characters from shows is Lucasfilm secrecy. It can't all be pinned on Hasbro there. An argument that I've used a lot when talking about that kind of topic is for the Kenobi show. The title of the show is Kenobi. I don't think it's a huge stretch to assume that Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be in the show titled Kenobi. Maybe Reva is going to pop up as a surprise. No one knew that young Leia was going to be in the show. Yeah, those figures probably keep those on the down low until after the show hits. There's no reason that Obi-Wan in his general tan outfit that he wore for the first 2 episodes shouldn't have been put out 2 months before the show started. And I'm sure Lucasfilm secrecy was part of it. But, and I mean, another thing is like Andor has been done for 5 months. We haven't gotten that wave yet. I don't want that wave anymore. I want Mando season 3 figures.
Mm-hmm.
They're not topical anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just like, I mean, certain things shouldn't be as held up as they are. Surprise characters. Yeah, absolutely. Black Chrysanthemum, we didn't know that he was going to show up in Book of Boba Fett. Neither did, Hasbro. That's why we just got him announced now over a year later.
Mm-hmm.
It took them a year to make him.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, there are certain things that we should know, just in advance. I don't think Grief Karga's coat changing colors is a huge spoiler for the show. That new season 3 Grief Karga should be available now.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to be able to do that, was the wild thing. Baby Yoda was the secret for season 1, but we had Mando and IG-11 and Paz Vizsla by the time episode 2 had aired. They were on shelves.
I think especially they need to take up some sort of model that Marvel Legends is doing, because before the movie comes out, you have a wave of figures of the main characters of the movie capitalizing on the hype of the movie. Let's be honest, if there's gonna be any toy company that is gonna be given some figures that are like maybe like not spoilery, but like a little bit hush hush until like the show is starting, it should be Hasbro. When was the last time we had a genuine Hasbro leak of like a figure that was coming out that wasn't like pre-prescribed by Yak Face or hinted at by Yak Face? Yak Face is like he's not like dropping like these like how Lego leaks are, like how we have basically all these new, like the Venator, the gunship, the
Right.
Ghost. We have pictures of Hera and Fox's minifigures right now. It's like those are like genuine like breaches in security leaks. That doesn't happen with Hasbro. So it's like it doesn't make sense as to why you can't give them like a little bit more leeway. I'm not saying don't give them Luke Skywalker from Mandalorian season 2 before the show comes out, and don't give them that information because that's like the apex of it. But still, say for like this season, a Bo-Katan with that new shoulder piece. That shoulder piece isn't a very big spoiler. You could have done that. You could have done that already. The reworked Mando has been something that they've been talking about doing since last year. The fact that they didn't kind of show that off like right at the beginning of this season coming out and have that figure on shelves when it's coming out instead of re-releasing the figure that's already existing at full price, nonetheless, it kind of baffles me. So I just don't understand as to where this level of secrecy is coming up in its complete and utter totality, where in the fact that it's really hindering anything from being made from these shows until a year later, because now Hasbro is losing money because they've lost the hype. The perfect example that you mentioned was with the Andor figures. Val and all the other guys, it's like, yeah, that would have been a really cool figure to have while the show was coming out. And now that it's been a year, guess what? Those pre-orders are canceled. I don't really care anymore if I find them in store when they're on sale, because they eventually will, because nobody really cares anymore. Then yeah, I'll grab it. But it's like they really need to work on this in order to capitalize on the hype of it, because guess what? Mando season 3 dropped. I wanted a new Mando figure. I was tired of waiting for that rework. I made my own. So I didn't want to wait around for Hasbro next year to be like, okay, guys, we finally made the helmet not curve under his chin, and we made the cape look a little better. It's I wish that they would capitalize on the moment, because Marvel does it so well. But then again, there's a different relationship between the Marvel team and Hasbro.
Mm-hmm. No, and I mean that's like you're saying. I mean, I think back to like Force Friday 2015. And they were releasing Force Awakens figures 2 months before the movie came out. And think about how many people went and bought them just because they were new figures and they were hype, and then went and saw the movie and decided to be a loser and hate the sequels. Like, and now, they have these figures they don't want and they've let them go. But ultimately, Hasbro made their sale. That should be, what's being looked at here. The Triple Force Friday back in 2019, 2 months before you got the Mandalorian before his show, you got Cal Kestis before his video game, you had Rise of Skywalker, Rey, and Kylo, 2 months before that movie came out. Any one of those three things could have flopped, but they made their toy sales. Now these Andor figures coming out. Cassian Andor wears that red coat for the first 3 episodes of the 12. I don't care enough. It's not an iconic enough outfit. You know, I'm not getting that Cassian. You know, Bix, maybe, you know, Luthen, maybe. Mon Mothma, I'm going to get and put her on the Return of the Jedi shelf. I don't care that she's an Andor. But, like, if these had dropped, you know, before the show, I would have just gone and bought them, you know, because I was excited for the show. And then, you know, now I'm just like, well, I'm probably going to wait for a markdown on all of them because it's coming, because no one's excited for them now.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think the Reva figures would have sold far better if they came out before the show, because if the figure came out after the show and everybody was like, oh, I don't like Reva, so why would I get the figure? I think people would have lost their mind over the figure, like, oh my gosh, new Inquisitors, give me that.
Right. I remember when season 1 of Mando was airing and the IG-11 figures showed up at Best Buy. Or it was right before the season started airing, and so people were hyped. They bought Mando, they had IG-11. Episode 1 came and went, and IG got killed at the end of that episode. And we didn't know he was coming back at the end of the season. It looked final. And there were people on collector pages going, well, why did I buy this droid? He's gone, you know. But they got that IG-11 sale. You know, they sold the figure. They had the hype, you know. And, like, now I just don't care, you know, about the Andor figures at this point. I mean, it's done. There's no hype. You know, we have what's our next show? The Ahsoka show. Like, at Celebration next weekend, they don't need to be I mean, I think the promo poster Vader looks cool, but they don't need to be doing that promo Vader. They need to be doing Ahsoka in a special box in her main outfit from the Ahsoka show, like they did for the First Order Stormtrooper back when, and when they did for Jyn Erso back when, and the Luke and Rey, you know, 2-pack for, you know, the Rise or the Last Jedi. Like, they need to be putting something out early to hype us up, and they aren't doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, honestly, something that they might benefit from going forward is, and I think, again, this is kind of like a Lucasfilm thing, because we get trailers now so close to when the show is going to come out. Think about when we got that Bad Batch season 2 trailer.
Right,
like,
a month before.
A month before the show came out, and they're like, oh, surprise, the show's coming out, you know. And at least with Bad Batch season 1, they had, you know, and some of the figures were incorrect, like the Captain Rex was incorrect, but that's because they were working off concept art that was provided to them by Lucasfilm. I think that something that Hasbro is getting caught up with is that Lucasfilm is pumping out so many new characters all the time that Hasbro cannot keep up with the budgeted figures they have, because so many are going to gaming greats, so many are going to Carbonize, so many are going to their reuse lines. And then on top of that, you know, they don't have enough time between the release of a trailer and, you know, something else coming out to get these figures out on time. So I think, like with Mando, it's very evident. The trailer was out well before the show came out. They had plenty of time to make a Mando figure, an IG-11, an Off-World Jawa, stuff from the first couple episodes, because they got an early viewing. Same with Jedi Fallen Order. They had plenty of material to work with well before the release of the game, so they were able to do that. I think that they're getting caught up with deadlines are so fast. Everything's going so quickly right now, and I think we're starting to get to a point where they're getting back. Star Wars is finally getting back into a good pace instead of rushing things and delaying things. And, you know, it was such a mess these last couple of years. I think that they'll find their rhythm again. They just need to take the time to do that.
Right. Yeah, it's all about, like, the caliber of secrecy that they're assigning to these things. The same argument for the Kenobi show I had is for the Ahsoka show. Like I was saying, how we should have that Ahsoka like out right now to build up hype for the show in 3 months. You know, like, people get so hung up on spoilers right now, and while they suck, if Ahsoka trades out her Mando outfit for like a traditional Jedi robe outfit in the show for whatever reason, that doesn't ruin anything, you know, like knowing that's not going to change the experience of the viewer. And so, like, you know, I mean, like, keep your secrets, you know, if Anakin's Force Ghost shows up in the show, maybe that shouldn't be the promo figure. Let that shock people.
And that won't show up in the trailer. You know what I mean? Right. Like, that'll be something. Pick the characters that show up in the trailers, you know, and then they can make figures of. That's what they did with Mando.
Right.
You know? And I think Fig Fury in the chat has, I think, one of the points you wanted to bring up too, was like events like Force Friday.
Yep. He says bring back events for figure releases too, like Force Friday. Those were fun. And I'm absolutely with that. They used to do these big things once a year, and they always tied in with movies. So I get it.
Yeah.
We haven't had a movie for a bit, but and maybe don't do it for every single show. You know, I could get how that would be overwhelming, but how long have we known that Jedi Survivor was coming?
Long
You know,
time.
right? Why has there not been, a GameStop Gaming Great figure? That they were going to do a special drop. Where you come in and you'd have a poster or something for that. And as a very extreme example, or for the Mandalorian, I mean, the Mandalorian event will always land.
Oh yeah.
But there's things that have been set in stone for so long that I don't want figures from the Mandalorian that are going to spoil season 3. But
Right.
we saw in the trailers, all these different color Mandos in the covert. Like, why not release a repainted Bo-Katan, basically? Just that female Mando body painted up to be like one of those, and just call it a special event to build a little hype. Doesn't matter, the character doesn't mean anything.
Anybody else got any of that?
Well, yeah, I think I've kind of exhausted the fact that there's some at some level, Hasbro needs to start to work on getting figures out and to capitalize on the hype. But then again, now that I'm actually thinking about it, I think there's just a different relationship when it comes to a cinema release versus a streaming service release. Because now that I'm thinking about it, we didn't get Moon Knight figures until the Moon Knight show was over, but I still didn't care because I was like, I want it. But then it's like you look at say the new Guardians movie. There's already Guardians figures are on the way right now. Before the new Black Panther came out, there's Black Panther figures on shelf. I think it's just because we haven't had a Star Wars movie come out in so long, and it's also the fact that I really wasn't as into collecting as I am now when the movies were coming out, like with the sequels. I think that's why I feel like there's this disparity between Marvel, but maybe because like Force Awakens, those figures were out before the movie came out. So it's probably something like a different sort of level between communication between streaming services and in movies. But I don't know. I don't get paid by Hasbro. I don't make toys. I don't have the degree to sit here and act like I know how to run a business. I just buy the products, and I think I want more of those products, and I want them to be better. So it's like, oh well.
Well, I suppose if we've got all of our anger out, Tommy, are you ready to show off your work?
All right, sit down, kids. You're about to get schooled. Here we go. I just want you to know I vehemently hate math. And I took the time to do some basic math for you all today. So I'm going to get ready. I'm going to share my screen here. So my biggest gripe with Hasbro right now is here we go. How's that coming through for you?
Right. Real quick, I see a comment from Fig just asking, did we get any Obi-Wan figs prior to the show, or did they all drop during or after it? They all dropped shortly after episode 6. Some, like the week episode 6 aired, you started finding them at Target. That wave that's now peg warming everywhere, the Obi-Wan fifth brother Reva wave.
But it was still, you capitalized on that hype though, because I guarantee everyone here except for maybe Tommy has the Obi-Wan, has a Vader, has a Reva, has a fifth brother.
I have them all. They're right here.
Yep. So yeah, we all have them all, and now they're peg warming hard. But it's like we bought them because we were hyped about the show coming out.
All right. So
yeah. So I'm gonna preface this real quick. So my biggest gripe with Hasbro is with their use of reuse, and they pick a lot of niche characters and then say that other niche characters won't sell. My complaint is why we choose to have Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan as mainline releases when they have very minimal new sculpt, but we still say that because it has some new sculpt, it deserves to be in. And I'm going to be honest with you, what is Ollie's full of right now?
Right.
Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan. So very clearly, these did not sell as much as the collecting community wants to think they did. Same goes with Figure and Dan. I can find at least one Figure and Dan most places that I go. You know, I get it. It was cool for that community of collectors, but there's a much broader community that has the money to purchase for clone troopers. We have a lot of budget that goes to things like carbonized, and no offense to hybrid, to credit collection. And, you know, gaming greats did Delta Squad in the last year, which was huge. I thought that was a great addition of niche characters, because let's be real, the Delta Squad is pretty niche in the Star Wars universe. I just wanted to show some things here that just some data for clone trooper releases in the Black Series line since day one. So I think, is it ready to share? Is it ready to share? Okay, there it is. So you'll see here, I have a good old spreadsheet. So since day one of the Black Series to now, there have been a whopping 46 Black Series clone trooper releases. So as you can see in column A here, can you see my mouse?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So all of them, I even have them marked here. So like, for example, you have the Phase 1 Clone Trooper from the Orange line and the Phase 1 Clone Trooper from the Galaxy packaging as well. I even included stuff like Captain Rex, the original Hascon release, where he was first released, and then the Red Box one and the Bad Batch one. Same with Cody. You'll see if there was ever a re-release of a figure, I included each individual release.
Sure.
And then clone troopers that showed up in multi-packs, I did as their own. So all 4 of those Order 66 clones are all their own figure. So looking through here, you'll also see all the clones that have their name in green are a named clone trooper. This would be a character that you would probably not get multiple of unless you were doing some customizing. And then all the clone troopers in black here are troop builders, you know, unnamed clone troopers that you could buy multiple of. Then in the B column here, I have type of release. You have all the ones in red are exclusive releases, and there are just some disparities that I really want to put out there, because I've heard some arguments as to why clone troopers don't get released where the troop builders are commons and the named clones are exclusives, other things like that. So I do just want to show this real quick. If you look here, out of the 46 releases, a whopping 30 of them have been an exclusive release and 16 have been common. So twice as many clone troopers in the history of the Black Series have been exclusive releases. And to actually, this would be a worse disparity, but I actually tried to offset that by including all the Bad Batch members down here at the bottom, including Omega. And I even included Arc Commander Jesse that hasn't even come out yet.
Right.
So you'll see here just some stuff here. I have 46 total releases. Exclusives come out to about 65% of all the releases. And if you take away the Bad Batch, it's a whopping 72% of every clone trooper released in the Black Series has been an exclusive. It's pretty close here. Named clones have been 50%. Army builders have been 50%. So there's really no disparity in that way. You know, they flesh out their named characters just as much as they do their troop builders. The number of named clones that have been exclusive sit at about 56%. I would say that's pretty good, actually, considering a lot of them are more niche. Like, I would expect a less popular character like Commander Fox or any of the Delta Squad members to be an exclusive, whereas the Army builders are a whopping 73% exclusive rate. I think that's just ridiculous, that the number of troop builder clones in the Black Series line have been an exclusive release, exclusive to a retailer or a multi-pack or anything of that nature. I mean, the fact that the Imperial Crosshair is a Walmart exclusive and we've seen him 5 times as much in the show as we have the regular Crosshair is pretty crazy. Not to mention, you know, Commander Wolf being an exclusive, I can understand that because he doesn't have a lot of screen time. But there's other ones too, like ARC Trooper Echo being an exclusive. He had unique packaging. I get that, whatever. But then you throw in other ones here, like we all know the 212th Trooper that came out recently for the Galaxy packaging was an exclusive to Walgreens. And before that, the old 212th Trooper was an Entertainment Earth exclusive. So you could never get that figure in a brick and mortar store. Another one here, you've got the last Clone Trooper. That's a troop builder. That was a common release. Get this. Was the Camino Clone Trooper, the Camino Security Trooper back in 2020 when they first released that new Clone Trooper mold. That was the last one they did. They did this one, and then shortly after that, they did the Phase 1 Clone Trooper. And they did that as a common release. And since then, there's not been a single Clone Trooper, aside from a Bad Batch member, that's a troop building clone that's been a common release. And that, to me, that just says a lot. It speaks volumes of the disparity here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my thoughts, honestly, I think that Hasbro would sell a lot more figures on their website, through fan channels. They would have a lot more demand for figures if some of these troop builders were taking the place of mainline figures like Ponda Baba, Dr. Evazan, Figrin Dan, etc. Because while these background characters are really cool, and I can understand why there is a market for them, it is nothing compared to the market for a troop builder. Because with Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba, you can only buy one of them. With General Lando, which they double packed, you can only buy one of them for your collection for it to make sense. Whereas with all these troop building clones, you could buy as many as you want, and it just makes total sense. So I guess that's the argument I'm trying to pitch here. Or even just do away with things in the budget like carbonized, and you could just do a 2-pack of 2 troop building clones, and people would buy way more of those, and it costs Hasbro less money, because you don't have to pay the extra paint apps to do the gloss coat on the carbonized figure. You don't have to worry about the extra stuff to make it look pretty. It's just, oh, here's a regular clone trooper. We just throw some paint apps on it, and it's done. We can throw it in a box. It's ready to go. Right. Honestly, I think 46 clones out of 10 years is a really good number, considering, that the line's only been around for 10 years. We've had 46 different releases of a clone trooper. But to show that 73%, I think that's my biggest one that I really am hounding on here. 73% of the troop builders being exclusive. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's just way over the top. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on my findings here?
I agree, but then again, it wasn't really a secret that most of the clones that we're getting are exclusives, and we're not really getting them in common releases, which doesn't make sense, especially for army builder clones. It would make so much more sense. It would make so much more money for the company if they just were sending them to brick and mortar stores like Target and Walmart in the masses, because the last time I remember, we were rushing to stores. Well, yeah, we were rushing to Walgreens to get those figures. We were rushing to Walmart to get the 332nd. It's those figures, they sell, and they sell hot, and they sell fast. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make sense to me as to why it's like you wouldn't want to just even do entire waves of them, because they would sell like hotcakes. They would sell like nicotine to a high school. They're feeding for it, and they need it. So, and then again, Jesse's our latest one. And if we're not counting the commandos, it's we're getting these figures eventually, but there's ARF troopers never done in the line yet. Customizers have beat them to it, especially with my custom 1313 trooper. It's on an ARF head, and it looks fantastic. It looks super freaking cool. We have clones like Jackson's Heavy, another custom that has been done. We have Phase 2 ARF troopers, another custom that has been done. The problem is that Hasbro is being completely outdid by the people that are buying these figures, and in fact, they're making them better than Hasbro's making them. And it doesn't make sense as to why they're falling so far behind.
So my recommendation too is, I am with figures like Figrin Dan. I'm not saying that those should be an exclusive release. I'm saying if you're going to make them like Kiadi Mundi. Kiadi Mundi is only going to be available for fan channels, and that is what that market is for. The little Johnny walking into Target is not going to pick up Figrin Dan over a stormtrooper or a clone trooper. Little Johnny walking into Target is not going to pick Dr. Evazan or Ponda Baba over a Dark Trooper or Boba Fett. You know, that's just what it comes down to. Is if you want to talk about Hasbro's larger market beyond collecting, I think it's very important to point out that 9 kids out of 10 know what a clone trooper is over a background alien from a cantina scene. And, you know, I hate to be that guy. I'm not hating on the OT background characters. I think they're very cool. I've handled them. You know, they're very well done. But I think that the market for those should probably go to fan channels where more of the adult collectors, you know, lay around.
I agree. I also think pretty much all exclusives should go to fan channels, or at least there should be a higher percentage of fan channels that are getting it, because these exclusive figures, they're once again, they're going to a specific retailer, and the only people that are fighting each other to get these figures are the collectors. Kids aren't going like out of their way to like, if they get it, they get it. They're not really searching in a way that collectors are.
Right.
Granted, yeah, Tommy and I, as little kids, we wanted those more obscure characters. My favorite figure growing up is the ARF Troopers from episode 6 on Kashyyyk. Not episode 6, episode 3. It's a fantastic figure, and it's like things like that were readily available. Nowadays, it's not going to be, and if that figure is like an exclusive somewhere, that kid's never going to get that figure unless they're paying aftermarket prices. And it's making things like nearly impossible for casual people to get like more obscure characters that they like. Say like for the Bad Batch, I know somebody that goes to my school that loves the Bad Batch, and they started watching it a little bit late. They were unable to get characters like Hunter and Crosshair because it's like even once their wave is done, Hasbro doesn't just like have like something like on their website where you can like continue to order something. Once they treat everything like it's a limited product, and that time frame that exists for it is only like 6 months.
Right.
So, they don't even like let it sit long enough that I think for more casual people that might want to just have something for like a desk, they don't let it sit long enough for it to be even casual collecting. So again, that also debunks any sort of argument about grandma going down the aisle wanting to find a Darth Vader figure for little Johnny. If they're going to buy anything for kids now, it's going to be Mission Fleet, it's going to be Micro Squadron, it's going to be Lego. It's 100% going to be Lego because it's so readily available. You don't have to worry about, if I missed the pre-order on day 1, I'm never going to see it. Every single time I have been to a store, I've seen some of the clone helmets. And it's, wow, it's a product that lots and lots of people want, and it's readily available. Wow. Now that's something that Hasbro needs to learn.
I mean, just look at what's on screen here. Look at how many of those are red versus how many of them say common. Like that is just almost all of those. Look at all in a row. There's like 6 in a row from the 187th down to the Order 66 501st that all just say exclusive next to them. And it's like, think about in 2021, was it, when General Lando was getting double boxed on cases. Imagine if that was a clone trooper instead, or even a stormtrooper. I'll open it up to that. Imagine if that was a stormtrooper or a clone trooper instead of putting 2 slots as Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba. Imagine if that was a stormtrooper or a clone trooper, you know, something that is desire. You know, I'm just saying if we're going to talk about what's desirable and what's not, I mean, I have a 6-year-old cousin who just got into Star Wars, and the only thing that he can talk about is clone troopers. Like, he is obsessed. It's not a generational thing either. You know, I've got a shelf full of stormtroopers right here. You know, like, I love the stormtroopers just as much as I love the clone troopers. I think Hasbro would make a lot more money if they just kept, here's a repainted dude, whether he's a named one or not. People are either going to buy multiples of it, or it's going to sell out because it's a popular character.
Rounding back slightly, because you were talking about the Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba. I think that if a figure ends up at Ollie's, the way especially those have, it can be written off as a fail. I mean, if it peg-warmed so hard that every Ollie's has dozens of each, something got missed here. And you were talking about, you know, like that being, you know, an online exclusive, a fan channel thing. You know, I'm not saying, you know, that the figures shouldn't be made, but instead of that carbonized Ned B and Trooper pack, it should have been an Amazon Dr. Evazan Ponda Baba 2-pack, and then those spots would be opened up. And honestly, I would want a repainted something. Something that I recently commissioned from Commander Cook was just white ARF troopers, just a standard white ARF trooper, you know, and Hasbro used to make them. It used to be when the Clone Wars animated show was running, you know, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, you'd go to Walmart and there'd be 5 of this guy on the shelf at any time. You know, you could go and get ARF troopers all the time. You got ARF troopers more than you got regular clones for that show. I remember as a kid, I had a ton of ARF troopers and no regular clones because they just didn't reissue those enough.
Well, they also had a thing with like their midsections would yellow. So I think that's why they did away with them for a while.
Yeah, actually, I've got one right here who's yellowed on the midsection.
Yep.
You want to know that?
But no, I mean, like and the thing is an ARF trooper from the neck down is a clone. So if you want to talk about, you know, some new parts being mainline, make Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba, you know, your Amazon exclusive 2-pack, fill that quota for Amazon, and then double pack an ARF trooper, make a new helmet and the bodies there. And then
because again, the online market, they're the collector market, we reside majority online. Right. You know, you have the sites like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth that are these very, very, you know, these fantastic sites that collectors prefer because they know they're going to get their product. They know it's going to get shipped in a quality way. You know, you have the pile of loot option with Big Bad. And again, there's a perfect example. Kiadi Mundi is a perfect, and I'm not, you know, because I could see how people could be like, oh, you're just a prequel guy, blah, blah, blah. But like, you know, Kiadi Mundi was a perfect choice to give to the fan channels because Kiadi Mundi is not going to sell on the shelf the same way that a Mandalorian or a clone trooper or a stormtrooper is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what's something that I would absolutely love to see from Hasbro in the Black Series, but I know we're probably never going to get it. I would absolutely love an animated style line. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. Those sideshow figures that I have, that's the animated Anakin and the animated Obi-Wan, are probably the best figures in this collection, in my opinion. They're so cool. There's something about it being so close to like what you see in the show. It's unreal. And yeah, it's really neat having like all these realistic style figures, but it's eventually, I think it would be because as a kid, that's what we had. We had these figures and they were in the animated style, in the 3-inch scale. And it's, I kind of want it back. And I wish Hasbro would do something like that. Like you could do the Rebels crew and like the Rebels style. You could do tons and tons and tons of Clone Wars figures in the Clone Wars style. Resistance figures in the Resistance style, even if you want to go that far. And then again, lots of those would turn into repaints real fast with Bad Batch and Tales of the Jedi and Clone Wars all being in the same style. No Tales of the Jedi figure. What's up?
So I know because Jacob and I had this conversation. I know I also had this conversation with Hybrid as well. Was remember that episode of the Bad Batch? Was it the last one before the season finale where Echo and Gregor went and saved the Hauser and you know those other clones?
Right.
So think about it this way. If you look at that episode alone, here's how many complete reuse figures you have. You have Fireball and that other 41st Elite Corps clone. All you got to do is paint the helmet different, and there you go. Brand new clone trooper, or 2 new figures. You've got Gregor, the Camino Security Commando, and a different version of Scorch. So that's 5 right there. And then on top of that, we still don't have a Captain Hauser figure, which again is complete reuse of the Imperial Shock Trooper that already came out for the Bad Batch. Correct. And then, you know, so that's 6 right there in that one sequence that are all reuse. And then you could use that budget to make a new figure like a TK Trooper, which also is a troop builder and would totally sell. You know, and then on top of that, there's another.
And you can repaint it. Then you can repaint it and give it a Pauldron and stripe, and then everybody would bust, and everybody would love it.
There it is, right there. It's like within 5 minutes of screen time, you have 6 brand new characters,
right?
Most of which are troop builders that you could make and sell, you know, and I guarantee they would sell. And I think that Hasbro is a little outdated in, you know, stuff like, I mean, Fig Fury and Out of the Basement are talking about it in the chat right now. They're talking about the Death Trooper went to Ross. Captain Rex was at Ross, you know, for $5. That was a different market 6 years ago than it is right now. The collecting community, when Jacob and I, when it was 2017, Jacob and I were in high school. Like, that was like a completely different time. Neither of us were as into Star Wars then as we are now. And the number of people our age that collect Star Wars things now, they're looking for the stuff that was on clearance 6 years ago. And that's why Captain Rex is now $150, $200, because he's desirable now. The market has changed. I think that's where Hasbro is starting to figure it out, you know, but they just got to get with the times a little bit more, that the market has changed.
Right.
They will never learn. They will never learn. I don't know. In summary, for me at least, Hasbro, I like your product. Give me more Clone Troopers, and give me figures when the shows are coming out. I think that's like the main boiling point of what this is coming down to, is to just make the community feel more heard and respected when it comes to how these figures are made and what figures are being made, as well as turnaround times for them.
Well, the other part is that there's a huge argument about, you know, with Hasbro. I can understand you want to make characters that are relevant right now. I can understand wanting to make characters that are relevant. So when we talked about those 6 reuse figures from that scene in the Bad Batch, those are all relevant because it was in a show that just came out. And yeah, it's just one of those things. I just don't understand why the market needs to change. I think eventually it will. But for me, I think that we can do away with things like carbonized, and kind of Hasbro can definitely rework what they put in place of carbonized. And there are plenty of options, like we just talked about, that will definitely sell better.
Yeah, right. If I think hands down, if Hasbro decided to get rid of the carbonized, because when they first came out in that first line of them, they picked probably all of the good characters that they could do carbonized for, and the novelty has worn off. The smoke is not in my eyes. The mirrors have been removed. And there's no fooling me just to see that you're just repainting figures that people aren't really buying. They're not really selling well. And then you're taking your overstock and you're putting glue glitter on it. And then you're saying, give it to Amazon.
Right.
I think it would be a way better venture and a use of your money if you straight up just started doing, instead of a carbonized line, you did a troop building line.
Yep.
Especially for clone troopers, stormtroopers, even I would buy things like that. And I really hope that they don't go, oh, maybe we will do this troop builder line, or we'll do like another repaint line, and they ditch the holiday figures, because the holiday figures is the only repaint line that I genuinely love. I think they're fun. I think they're quirky. They're really niche, and they're just it's something that's more fun to spark up your collection rather than everything just being so serious. But then again, like things like the credit collection is just like, it just looks like you dumped a figure into the porta potty blue goo and whatever other substances is down there, and you put it in a new box, and then you gave it a plastic mold of a credit. I even think I would buy credit collection stuff if those credits were actually solid pieces of metal. I would then go out of my way just to buy them because they were solid pieces of metal, and then I would probably sell the figure. But no, they're cheap plastic, so I feel no urge to get those figures.
Yeah, particularly carbonized has really kind of lost me. You know, I mean, like initially that first wave was kind of neat how they metalliced the armor pieces on the seventh sister or second sister, the the Jedi Fallen Order one, or how they did, instead of just flat red for the Sith Trooper, they did like the chrome red, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. It wasn't something that I was head over heels with, but I was like, yeah, it's something kind of neat. But now we're getting blue TIE Pilot. It's just like, the idea is dead. You've run out of ideas. It's run its course.
Yeah.
And the course has been ran. That target set of 3, the Paz Vizsla, the Shore Trooper, and the Scout Trooper, like, those sat for so long. And it's like, okay, so, maybe it's time for something different. And now they're doubling down with these 2-packs instead. And it's like, I just don't, I don't get the market. I don't get who they're trying to sell them to. I don't know anyone that's, hyped. I mean, even to, credit. I mean, we've been talking a lot about clones. But I mean, think just comparably, we have 2 Amazon exclusive 2-packs, the Royal Guard and the TIE Fighter pilot one.
Yep.
That are carbonized. And then we have the Ned B and the Purge Trooper. And they have been readily available on Amazon.
Yep.
And you know what sold out within 2 hours? The Artillery Stormtrooper.
Again, they literally they could even do something as simple as, oh, we're going to take a regular Stormtrooper and a regular Scout Trooper, throw it in a Return of the Jedi, exclusive 2-pack. And guess what? That would sell. Or like with Mando Season 3, we repainted Koska Reeves and we repainted Axe Woves. Here are 2 of the Mandalorians from that one shot in the trailer. And those would sell way more heavily than the current 2-packs that they have.
Right. I mean, I'm not asking for anything amazing here. I'm just asking for something desirable.
Yep.
I for a long time was a completionist with Black Series. And I didn't even really realize it, but I mean, I would like get to where like, man, I bought everything in the wave but this one, and then I'd see that one at the store, and I'd be like, okay, I'll buy it. Why not? Yeah. And now we're at a point where I'm cherry picking. I mean,
me too.
This Andor wave, that's the next one due to hit. The only ones that I really want from that set are the Cal Kestis and the Luke Skywalker. There are 7 figures in that wave. I
don't remember what it's 4 Andor figures.
Right. It's the 4 Andor figures. It's the Cassian Bix, Luthen, and Mon Mothma. There's the new Cal Kestis from Survivor. There's the Mandalorian Rescue Luke, and there's Mando in the tank disguise.
I mean, I want the whole wave because I loved Andor so much, but I do like 100%. I see where you guys are coming from. The hype is just not there for Andor anymore. It's not.
Right. I mean, like Andor for me didn't hit. I mean, I know that it did for a lot of people, I mean, you give me a Mando figure a year after, I'm probably going to go for it. Right. Andor, you got to drop it before for me to be interested.
Yeah, 100%.
Luthen as a character, I didn't care about. I mean, he wasn't in the show. I mean, or like he was in it, but he was just, he'd get a little segment here and there working in his shop. And I'm like, it's just not a dynamic action figure. I wouldn't know what to do with him. How would I pose him? What do I have him doing on the shelf? If I buy Luthen, he's going to get put in just a very neutral standing pose and just plopped on the shelf. And like, I have bought so many figures that do that. And if I'm cherry picking, he's not making the cut. Then
yep. And it's unfortunate because a lot of those figures are great figures. I mean, the Black Chrysanthemum, the Luke and Grogu 2-pack, the Pike Syndicate Soldier, those are all fantastic figures. But how long has it been since Book of Boba came out? And we're still waiting on figures from the last 3 shows. We still don't have any figures from Bad Batch Season 2 even revealed. We have that Omega is pipelined. That's what we've got. And that's it.
You could have repainted the entire batch. You could have repainted all of them because guess what? All of them were in the trailers.
Yep. There you go.
And then you could have done like a multi build-up pack with just all of them. They would just throw them all in one box, and then guess what? People would have bought it, like me.
No, and I mean that's it's just where I'm at. Like I'm so burned out on buying everything, especially when everything's not. And I don't want to say I want to be catered to, but like they're not doing anything I want. I mean, I've seen lately where people are kind of, tapping out of the Black Series line. And I understand.
Me too.
It's like the it's like a Anakin talking to Ahsoka at the end of season 5, you know, where he's like, I get it, you know, I'm not going to do what you're doing, but I totally get it. You know, I'm not done with the line, but I'm getting very picky. I mean, it just sucks that like the last clones that I was able to pick up and get really excited about were these AliExpress bootleg ones.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And
they're good too.
Right. Good. And I mean the rumors that are going around on what's coming from that line, and Hasbro, you know, won't touch. You know, I mean, I look at Apo, which is basically just a repaint of Bly, is all that Hasbro would have to do, you know, but then they've put it on the new body, which is a step up. They did the Waxer and Boyle figures. I mean, just a repaint. And that could have been a great Amazon 2-pack.
Yep, there you go.
The two of them in a box right there. And then, you know, like I was saying earlier, you know, if they'd have ever just done a white ARF Trooper, again, Waxer and Boyle and ARF Trooper paint jobs as an Amazon 2-pack, there's plenty of this stuff they can do.
It just
and they're just constantly picking, you know, carbonized. And I've got nothing against the concept of a repaint. I don't think that every clone trooper needs to be a head to toe unique mold.
I agree.
But I don't want carbonized. I want new clones. I want new stormtroopers. I want, you know, every skin of Cal Kestis from Fallen Order, you know, I mean, or at least, you know, the 3 or 4 more popular ones. And, I want all the Battlefront 2 skins.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely criminal that we aren't getting figures like this. And then there are even more notable, like, main characters that aren't in the line yet. Like, where's Trace and Rafa?
Right.
I tried so hard to say that with a straight face. I couldn't. But, also, just real quick, I want to say hi and goodbye to some people that have been in the chat. We had Justin from Out of the Basement was in here for a little bit. Your casual clone 17.2 Nate. Fig Fury's been chilling with us the whole time. So has Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we got Commander Cook in there right now.
Yep. We did kind of lose our chat there for a little bit. So, right. Fig mentions here in particular one of the rumors if Ali makes a Wolfpack clone next. And like that's a rumor that's going around that they are working on a deco for a Wolfpack clone. And you know, I mean, we can't even get Hasbro to give us a carbonized clone trooper.
Yep, and let's look at something like this.
Right. And the thing is like we're in this 20th anniversary of Clone Wars thing this year, and Hasbro has half of a clue because they did the Walmart exclusive vintage collection ARC Troopers from season 3, the Blitz, Havoc, and Colt, and like they've got the mold in 6-inch. Why do we not have, you know, 3 store exclusives or a 3-pack? You know, like why are we not getting stuff like that right now?
Because they don't like us,
right? But like this is the time. Take that 3-inch deco that they did for vintage collection, blow it up, stick it on this body. You know, it's not. I mean, we want repaints that are desirable. Is really it. You know, I'm pro repaint.
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
You know, as long as they're cool. As long as they're cool. And the paint isn't glitter glue.
Right. So, yeah, no, the most unique clones that they've done for the last 6 months were the Halloween and the gingerbread, you know, Christmas one.
And the Halloween one,
right.
Love that.
Now, I'm going to say I personally am not crazy on those two, and I get the draw. But I think I wouldn't be as upset if they weren't like the only clones we'd gotten for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
They'll give us a clone if it's in a gingerbread cookie color, but they won't give us a Wolfpack clone or, you know, like, and that's, I mean, they're completely missing, you know, the mark here. You know, something I was trying to come up with like a funny intro for this. And I had this idea about opening this stream with like a verbal story about, you know, like way back in 2005, you know, Hasbro went on MySpace and to the official Star Wars MySpace, and you looked at the comments to see what they wanted, and people were saying prequels bad or whatever, but it's 2023 and they're still doing the same thing. They're getting the wants from the wrong source. The audience has evolved, and you know, I get we're always going to have OT stuff on the shelf. A point that I see a lot of people constantly make is, us kids that grew up watching the prequels, watching Clone Wars, we're grown-ups. We have grown-up money.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what we want now. We want.
Right. Just look at my collection here, my personal collection. I only have vintage collection clone troopers. That's all I get from vintage collection. I get doubles of anything that's Clone Wars packaging. I have a whole Clone Wars shelf and a whole separate shelf for clone troopers. I have the only Hot Toys I get aside from Boba Fett, who's technically a clone, are clone troopers. It's just right. I'm one of thousands of people who really only collect that way.
I'm looking at my desk, and that's what it is. I mean, it's not on purpose, but I set stuff on my desk, and I'm looking at what's here, and the only thing that aren't clones are Wicket because he's new and I was posing him, and the Migs Mayfeld just because he was, I got him cheap and I opened them and I haven't put them on the shelf yet. I have like 8 clones laying on my desk that I'm just constantly posing while I'm waiting for videos to render.
Dude, and that's it. Like, I mean, literally to my right, I have 2 stormtroopers, and then to my left, I have all the Delta Squad and 2 Death Troopers. Like, it's Jacob showed it, I showed it, you showed it. Right. Everyone, like, people just have the troopers. Those are the cool ones.
Yep, and they're the ones that everybody wants, and the ones that at least for our demographic and our echo chamber of our community, we're the ones that really want these clone troopers. Also, hello to Skywalker Hendricks, who has been lurking in the comments. We appreciate you. But the Fig Fury was saying that the last off the wall clone trooper that we got was the Umbra operative, and it's such a cool figure. It's such a cool thing to have. And at this point now, I'm kind of losing faith in Hasbro, and we're really starting to move heavy into the custom clones. Like literally just this week, we got Mr. Doom and we got Hound in, and these figures are fantastic. And these are more than just, and these are done by Commander Cook, but these are more than just action figures. These are legitimate works of art. These have like time put into it. There's a story, there's a technique, and there's a skill level that goes into making these. That's more than just, we have a mold of plastic, and then we have like these ink jets that we've programmed to put this color here and this color here. And then we have an underpaid child look at the figure and go, yep, that looks good. And then they throw it in a box. It's
Commander Cook goods right here.
Yep. Got Lungy's Hideout. I bought the pumpkin trooper off Latendi when he was selling that wolf pack I showed you. That was another custom. And those figures are utterly phenomenal. It's like if Hasbro's figures were to the level of that, they could genuinely charge like $50 per figure, and I don't think people would be complaining that much. They're that good. And guess what? Now that I'm going to art school and it's more than just film, and I'm finally starting to get more and more comfortable in how I am as an artist. This is one of many. This is one of many. My next one, I'm going to be getting myself a Fordo, and I'm making that Phase 1 Captain Rex, because I have lost all hope that that's coming to the line at all. And can we please talk about, because we didn't mention this at all yet, can we talk about how this whole year is supposed to be a really, really nice 20th anniversary for the Clone Wars, and we've gotten this much for the Black Series?
Right.
Like, what?
We have
like 2 TVC figures, and that's it.
It's the Clone Wars, and the Black Series has a piped lined Phase 2 Clone Trooper, which technically isn't even a
figure.
Clone Wars figure. Yeah, that's what we've got. So TVC's got a ton of stuff. TVC's kicking ass, man.
Yeah, I'm really I'm hoping what we're gonna see at Celebration this weekend for these reveals that Hasbro's doing. I'm really hoping a majority is gonna be Star Wars, the Clone Wars, because if it's not, I'm actually gonna. I think because I usually don't really get upset with Hasbro. I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. But if there's not at least like 2 Clone Wars figures at this thing where they're revealing 20 different products, I'm actually gonna be furious. Like it's unacceptable, because you completely missed Attack of the Clones, which is like, okay, I get it. COVID hit, you didn't have the time to prepare this line, and it was really weird, and yada yada yada. But if you're gonna have the balls to put the Clone Wars signet and say this year we are celebrating the Clone Wars, you're getting absolutely, I'm going to use some naughty words, you're getting dicked on by Lego right now because they got 2 helmets, all of this stuff that's coming. They have a UCS Venator. They have stuff coming out for Ahsoka, which
2
falls
battle
into
packs.
the Clone Wars. They have 2 battle packs. Lego is going ham. Hot Toys is, although because their products, they don't release as fast, even they have more stuff than Hasbro does right now for this Clone Wars anniversary. So it's actually rather embarrassing for being the only retailer in the United States that carries Star Wars figures, directly figures, and then you're like, oh, we're doing this anniversary, and you're not doing anything for it. I'm real sorry for losing my temper there, but it's like it just don't make no sense.
Right, the rage of a ginger.
No, it runs in the Irish blood. Anyway,
it's not like something also is like, like you were mentioning all these lines, it's the 20th anniversary of Clone Wars. They've announced 4 figures that tie to that
pipeline.
Right, pipeline, not even shown, just said they're coming.
In my eyes, pipeline, it doesn't count. It doesn't count whatsoever because
all that pipeline. All that pipeline is so that they can start putting things in inventory systems and not have Yak Face spoil it.
Yeah.
You notice that Yak Face hasn't said, oh, I found this in their system before they pipeline something anymore since they started doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can start typing on their computers without him hacking in and knowing. I mean, the CIA is after the man. He's a menace to the Hasbro. But.
It's crazy because I get they said mini beat. I understand that. I'm not going to be the guy who expects 3 waves of Clone Wars Black Series, but if they were pipelined, who's to say they're not going to come out this year? Wouldn't that be hilarious if they talk about Clone Wars 20th and the figures don't come out until the anniversary is already over?
I feel like because Obi-Shan says mini B equals 1 figure, and if that's legitimately their mentality of, oh, this whole thing is going to be a mini B, I genuinely think Hasbro has failed us as Star Wars collectors of the prequel era, as people that have grown up with these figures, especially collecting them as children, as most of us have. It's a spit in the face to people like us that give Hasbro so much money and continue to give Hasbro money for repaints and things like that with inflated prices. And we continue to do so, and we continue to hold on to good faith, even when they mess up things like that Jesse figure and they give him the wrong helmet sculpt. Not all of us whine about it and go, oh, this is the end of the world. People are still buying the figure because you know what? We grew up with these clones. We grew up with this show. It means the world to us. But just to be like, oh, we're doing this entire anniversary and to not give us anything, and we're 4 months into the year, and if we don't have anything really coming out this year or anything like that, it's just a spit in the face to people like us that really, really care about this era of Star Wars and paid this much money into Star Wars The Black Series.
Yeah. No, I'm just formulating thoughts. Like, no, I mean, it's the fun. I think because this 20th mini beat thing, that logo that they put out, it's weird because Hasbro's who announced it. That was like the first word we had was it was going to be, it was going to be.
They made a big deal about it too,
right? But the thing is it's not Hasbro's doing because Lego's getting in on it and Hot Toys is getting in on it, and so I think almost maybe a little bit of it is. I mean, with all the different brands on it, it's not Hasbro, it's Lucasfilm who said this is going to be a year to do some Clone Wars stuff. And with that said, I'm wondering if Hasbro wasn't just told, hey, do something. And they were like, well, these. And like, that's it.
I don't know. It's weird though, because like I just looked up, I have the one for Jackson right here because we ordered them together. This is the TVC Arc Commander Havoc, and there's the logo right there in the card.
It's the logo right there on the figure that has the mold for every single character that we want already. It's just new paint apps. Wow. It's almost like you could just go to your doot machine, program those paint apps for those readily available paints that you have, and start pumping out product. Because I guarantee you, Hasbro has a Clone Trooper mold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like what I mean though is like TVC, like so he's already out. He's in collector's hands because that one is from Walmart. I didn't pick that one up from Return of the Nerd. And the other two, the Commander Colt and the Commander Blitz, that's me, are going to come out sometime this year. They're going to come out about every 3 months.
Right.
I think it's weird that TVC's got their stuff together and Black Series seems to be fumbling. Who knows? Who knows? We might come into the celebration stream, which you should check out our stream that we're going to do talking about the reveals on the Creators Guild YouTube channel, which we are all members of. But on this Saturday. But yeah, it's weird because maybe we'll get surprised and they'll give a bunch of Clone Wars stuff between the two lines and they'll say, hey, here is, this is when it's going to come out. It's actually coming out sooner than you guys thought. Big surprise. That would be the best case scenario. Who knows? Maybe that will happen. Because a lot of reveals lately have been getting pushed off to spring of 2024. So who knows? Maybe they're doing all that so that they can show us the stuff that's coming sooner.
Right. Also, side note, while talking about Blitz, I just wanted to let everybody know that Tommy actually got to meet Giancarlo Esposito. So there he is. I hope you realize that on the other side of this photo that I cropped out was a person in a fursuit. So
why are you calling them a person? They're wearing a fursuit.
They're
a lower class.
No, it was Blitz, Giancarlo Esposito, and an actual dog. No, it's a fursuit. It's right. No, it's definitely a fursuit.
No, I was saying it's like a societal placement thing. I mean, like I value people who talk in the movie theater higher than furries. So, but I think unless there's any more brilliant points to be made, we're at an hour and a half.
Yeah,
on a stream that in my mind shouldn't have been more than 45 minutes, but we had a fun time.
Let's talk about the Rancor. No, I'm just kidding. Let's not talk about the Rancor. Oh.
Wait, this one's great though.
Someone's a Zootopia fan.
Yeah, so if you want to hear us either vehemently bitch about Black Series more, or if you want to hear us really, really just sob tears of joy, go check out this Saturday night. We'll be streaming for the Creators Guild, which if you're not subscribed to, you should go subscribe to. And that all three of us will be there with plenty of other people that are members of the guild. I know Skywalker Hendricks will be there. We'll have your casual clone, among others. So it's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah. Maybe we could reach out to OTB, see if they want to come and join us for this episode.
There we go. Right, that's an idea. So, yep. Well, thank you guys for joining me tonight, both 1313 Tommy and Jake.
Thank you for having us.
And everyone in the chat. Sorry we ignored y'all tonight, but Tommy brought some cold hard facts, and we had to focus. So this has been an hour and 32 minutes of three losers bitching about not getting the right toys.
Subscribe to the 1313 podcast.
And for people coming in on the rewatch, Topical Tuesday, something that I'm doing on the channel now. I'm open to ideas. If anyone has any topics that they think would make a good video, whether it be a live stream or just like last week's, 10-minute pre-recorded format. Any ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'm out of ideas.
Here's a really good idea for you. Why is that First Order trooper just staring at the wall? Why is he in timeout? Take him out of timeout.
He's remembering the time I kissed him. So
I have that photo somewhere on my phone. I just got to dig it up.
Yeah, no, Latendi will probably drop it in the 1313. He has a video that someone actually slow-moed it and did like the romantic saxophone song to it.
Like and what you did to the video of Tommy when I was like, hey man, can you hold my shirt down so I can take off my hoodie?
Yeah, that song. So, yeah, I saw a second ago Commander Cook plugged it, but yeah, pop into the 1313 Discord. A lot of fun there as you're hearing references to. So, and that's it for this Topical Tuesday. We'll see you all next Tuesday.
Deuces, y'all.
Bye.